Are you a professional, a pro UX expert specialist? Well, in that case, let's see how many mistakes that you make or you don't make out of these lists that is claimed by this article. Common UX mistakes everyone still makes 2.0. It's an article by Jason Tunisan on Medium, uxplanet.org. Let's have a look. Back in 2018, I wrote about the most common UX mistakes low-code developers make. A lot has changed since then, except for one thing. Developers are still coming up with poor excuses to ignore good UX. Good UX is so important. When I go to a site that is well designed, it's easy to use. It doesn't even have to be fancy. It's just easy to use. UI UX is just, for me, it just shows how much care that went into that website, and that makes me want to use more, and that makes me feel safe, because it shows that the developers, they pay attention to details and they care about the users. With vibe coding speeding up app creation, these mistakes are showing up even more often, especially when teams move from a single app to a full enterprise landscape. Let's dive into the most common UX pitfalls I still see in the wild, the excuses behind them, and how to fix them. 1. Consistency is king, queen. A wireframe sketch. Every developer in our team can build this page in exactly the same way. That's cool. Build consistently is the number one UX improvement every developer can make. A design system only works when everyone builds the same page in the same way. When that happens, the benefits are obvious. Developers can work on each other's pages without becoming bottlenecks. The CSS team deals with fewer one-off HTML scenarios. Predictable HTML makes theme swapping and real-time white labeling possible. Yes, it might feel slower at first, but consistency will save you far more headaches later. Excuses are here, but this is how I have always built pages. Why is there not a building block for this? There are too many building blocks. Finding examples in the Living Style Guide is hard work. I have deadlines, responses, but this is how I have always built pages. Then you have always been doing it wrong. Time to get it with the program. Why is there not a building block for this? Our design system treats developers as engineers. We provide the Lego blocks and show you examples of how to use them. Building and maintaining every possible block is not realistic. Blocks also do not cover complex screens with multiple data views or list views. There are too many building blocks. Whenever we add more, developers complain there are too many and end up using only one anyway. Consistency is not optional. It is the foundation of scalable UX. Number 2, interaction patterns. Pop-up versus inline. Users rely on predictable interaction patterns to understand and navigate your app. When pop-ups or inline edits are used inconsistently, it disrupts their workflow, creates confusion, and makes the app feel unpredictable. Common trouble spots. Editing data. Should you open a pop-up with save and close buttons, or allow inline editing? Inline editing. How do you communicate that changes are saved or cancelled? Drag and drop. Is data saved the moment it is dropped? Pop-ups with pop-ups. Is this ever okay? Excuses are here. This is how the Mendix defaults work. I think this pattern is better than one my colleague uses. This is how Mendix defaults work. Response. Defaults are not always best. Many of Mendix's defaults date back to 2015 and still exist for backwards compatibility. They are fast to generate but often misaligned with modern UX. For example, most users do not use the new button on data grids because we often need more control over how objects are created. We also avoid generated overview pages because our navigation is part of the layout and uses a different widget. If you're unsure, talk to the UX owner. I like this pattern better. Do you like it because it is easy to build? Because it is easier for users? Because other developers will understand it? Or because it follows proper server syncing? There is a big difference between preference and good UX. always align with the UX owner. Developers care about good UX, but the balance is tricky. Speed and polish both matter, and developers play a key role in clarifying the trade-offs. Ultimately, it's the PM who sets the priorities, so the team can focus on building with confidence. Sophie Baker, who's a Mendix MVP. Man, I've never used Mendix before. There are so many technologies that I'm like, I have no idea about, and yeah. Sometimes it feels daunting because I just feel like I've got so much to learn, and every time I learn something, I learn that there are other things that I want to learn. Yeah, sometimes it feels a bit daunting. Too much or too little white space? Amount of time a user spends in the app, amount of white space. High usability, high productivity. White space is a constant debate. Some users complain about scrolling. Others say things feel too cramped. You will never make everyone happy, which is why the design team should set the rules. If no guidelines are available, use this simple rule of thumb. The more often a page is used, the less white space it should have. The less often a page is used, the more white space it can have. Think about Figma. The main editor UI is dense and compact because people use it every day. The Figma homepage, on the other hand, has plenty of white space because it's visited less often and needs a stronger first impression. Interesting, but just from glance, I would have said the Figma homepage is maybe the keyword is often. Like, you don't often visit the Figma homepage, where it could be that more people visit Figma homepage compared to the main editor UI. But for example, there are people that work on Figma every day and they would just visit the main editor UI every day. So it's more often, and they wouldn't go to the homepage unless there's specific need for it. Minimum white space. Expertise oriented, unknown path. It's for daily interactions. Why? Compact, data rich, more options visible. Examples, dashboards and CRMs. Maximum space, goal oriented, known path. It's for rare interactions. Clear focus, easy to complete. Examples, widgets, landing pages, portals, error states. Excuses I hear. Users hate scrolling. I want an overview of everything. It looks cleaner and easier to sell to management. Response. If your design system is set up correctly and developers build consistently, you should not need to worry about the right amount of white space. The design system defines it for you. Example, CSS. White space is not decoration. It is a functional part of UX. The trick is knowing when to use more and when to use less. Gap. Okay, you have a variable. Okay. You have a variable for the gaps. Number 4, fancy widget misuse. Toggle widget, this is you. Just because a widget is fancy does not mean it's the right choice. Low-code platforms make it very easy to swap basic features for flashy ones, but flashy does not always equal useful. A common example, say you want to set a Boolean attribute is done to true. Our options include button and microflow, checkbox, 2 radio buttons, toggle. Depending on your design system, only one of these options is correct. Choosing the wrong one breaks consistency and confuses users. Tip: always follow consistent interaction pattern. Refer back to section 2. If your team has agreed on rules for which widget to use in each scenario, stick to them. Fancy options should never replace clarity and predictability. If you want to learn about correct toggle use, check out the NN Group's article on this. Look how specific it gets. It's not only about UX, but it gets down to what's the correct toggle usage. I love it. Number 5, table versus laid out grid. Table, layout grid. Knowing when you use a table and when to use a layout grid is simpler than it seems. The easiest question to ask: what happens if you stack all the information vertically? Tables are not responsive by default. They show clear relationships between rows and columns, which matters when multiple entries exist, making them great for comparing data. The DOM sees table and understands that it holds data in a tabular format. Layout grid. Layout grid, CSS grid, communicate to the browser that this element is part of the layout. The element does not have a defined place or relationship with the data. Because of this, the CSS allows us much greater freedom to position elements in relation to other elements. Layout single entry. This is layout because collapsing the content vertically keeps relationships clear. Table multiple entries. This is table because the relationship between columns and rows matter. Collapsing the tables would break the data structure. Scenarios that often confuse developers. A table with a single entry is still a table. A table with a lot of data but on mobile allow horizontal scrolling. A table but when viewed on mobile, it should collapse. Both. For the desktop, use a table. On the smaller screens, remove the table and opt for cards. They can be positioned as a layout grid. Questions to ask your UX team. Will the data always be shown in a table? Will it ever collapse? Will new entries be added frequently? Bonus tips. When building widgets, use the correct HTML elements instead of relying on JavaScript and inline styling. For example, if your data is tabular, render it as a table element. This allows users to copy and paste it directly into Excel or Google Sheets while preserving formatting. Standardized semantic HTML is a huge win. It makes your widgets easier to maintain, improve accessibility for all users, and ensures your content works smoothly across apps and platforms. I wonder how many of you watching are UX UI specialists. Because I know, at least in my class, a lot of people always kind of lean more towards backend, and a lot of people find that UX and UI it's more about being creative and being kind of artsy in a way. And I think big part of it is true, but I think things like this also shows that it's also a science, and it's a mixture of art and science, and about that I really like. 6. Cards versus panels. Card, modular and portable, actionable, focus on content, visual separation. Example, product cards on e-commerce sites. Panel, structural and organizational, may not be standalone, interactive, persistent area. Example, dashboard side panels with filters. Many design systems distinguish between cards and panels, and understanding the difference helps maintain consistent UX. Card, clickable unit, can contain content, but not other card or panels. Panel, structural container, can hold nested panels or cards. Summary and key takeaways. If you take anything away from this, let it be these 6 principles. 1. Build consistently. Follow your design systems so every page is predictable and maintainable. Number 2, stick to shared interaction patterns. Users learn your app once. Don't make them guess how things behave. Number 3, respect white space, compact for daily use screens, spacious for rare or goal-focused interactions. Number 4, use widgets wisely. Fancy does not mean better. Follow the patterns your team has agreed on. Number 5, know when to use tables versus layouts. Tables for multiple structured entries, layouts for single or nested content. Number 6, understand cards versus panels and use semantic HTML. Cards for actions, panels for structure, and always pick the right HTML elements to improve accessibility and maintainability. Follow these rules and your UX will be more consistent, user-friendly, and future-proof. Small choices today, like picking the right HTML element or using layout consistently, pay off in big ways across your apps and enterprise landscape. It's an insightful article. I like learning about these things. This is something that I don't have experience in, but I would really like to get some hands-on experience, professional experience, some guidance, and real projects. That would be cool. Yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed watching too. Thank you, and like and subscribe. Bye.